British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has agreed to resign, ending an unprecedented political crisis over his future. Johnson had rebuffed calls by his cabinet to step down in the wake of ethics scandals. He gave in after more than 40 ministers quit his government and told him to go. It was not immediately clear on Thursday whether Johnson would stay in office while the Conservative Party chooses a new leader who will replace him as Prime Minister. A Rise senior correspondent joins us live from London for more on this. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Do tell us what is happening in terms of updates on this Boris Johnson saga, the end of the saga, I should say.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Well, the political earthquake about to rock the UK with Johnson's resignation imminent, could be in the next few minutes or in an hour or so. We're expecting him to emerge from behind that famous black door and make a statement. That's not imminent because there's no podium there for him to talk to from at the moment, but there may be that there'll be a paper statement first before Boris Johnson appears and says goodbye and you know, the party's over. An incredible innings for Johnson. He swept the Tories to power with their biggest majority in 40 years back in 2019, giving them an 80-seat majority in the House of Commons. But, you know, the scandals just came thick and fast from last year, starting with Partygate and then all sorts of sexual shenanigans surrounding various individuals in the government. And really, it has been time now for him to go, especially after we're into the third day now of mass resignations by ministers in his government. The Department of Education, for example, can't function at all because all the ministers have quit. So, look, the government's in a state of paralysis at the moment. We understand that Boris Johnson will stay on, or he plans to stay on as Prime Minister until October. Now, it may well be that the party apparatchiks and the senior Tories might not be too happy with that. They might think that he's damaged the party's reputation too much to stay on, and in which case there may be a deputy, a caretaker Prime Minister, maybe Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, or even I've heard of Theresa May, a former Prime Minister, coming back to take over the reins until October. But meantime, there will be a leadership race to replace Johnson, and lots of people throwing their hats into the ring already. Rishi Sunak, former Chancellor, bookies' favourite here to succeed Johnson, but you look, we're in a state of flux at the moment. It's a very dynamic, fast-moving story, and you know, anything can happen in the next 24 hours, so watch this space.
This space, John. Some people are postulating that what Rishi did yesterday, or day before yesterday, was to play a gambit in the game of chess, to take himself out, to be able to make himself look good for the prime ministerial race. That Sajid Javid too played that gambit, and it was a calculated gambit by both of them. What say you about that?
You know what? I think you are spot on. I think you're right. I think this could have been planned all along. Both those individuals have their sights set on the top prize, and maybe it was a coordinated effort on their part. Because look, if they're going to win, if the Tories are going to win the next election in a couple of years' time, they need to get all this behind them. And Boris Johnson got and a new leader of the party in place to you know, to woo the voters and to get them across the line for the next election. So it could well be that this was a very careful timing by those two individuals, and you know, only time will tell whether that's the case. But certainly there will be leadership contenders. That is absolutely certain.
Right. I'd even place the beginning of this undignified final act at the Owen Paterson debacle, when he made that mistake of defending the indefensible, and it's been downhill from there. But now, who's going to replace him? You mentioned Dominic Raab. He's sort of stained by the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that entire fiasco. The other names that have been bandied about, Penny Mordaunt seems to be popularly Liz Truss, obviously Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid. Who do you think might step in? Do you think the Conservatives will still insist on a Brexiteer, for example, which is one of the reasons why Boris Johnson was so popular in the party and in the country?
I think that's absolutely right. I think it will be impossible for a so-called Remainer to become Prime Minister. That would really be taking the party and the country backwards, frankly. Those names that you mentioned are all possibilities, absolutely. Dominic Raab, you mentioned, yes, he is tainted after the Afghanistan debacle, but he would only be a caretaker Prime Minister to get us through the summer months. Just let me hold the line a second, just a moment. There seems to be some activity here. No, I thought they were possibly putting the podium up for a statement, but that's not happening. The leadership race is going to come through the summertime, and we'll be hearing a lot of talk from various people who want the top job, but the big problem at the moment is to try to replace those people who've already quit the government and get the government's departments, the various departments, running again. So there's complete chaos at the moment.
All right, let's talk about a possible election and the chances of an already decimated Conservative Party. Because even if they go through a leadership struggle, Boris Johnson was speaking yesterday and said the earliest time for an election will be 2024. What will happen? What are the scenarios?
Well, the one scenario is that, yesterday, the one scenario was that there will be a general election, and that was rejected by experts on the political scene here as not being feasible because it would cause a constitutional crisis. The Queen would have to approve the dissolution of Parliament, and with a party in power with an 80-seat majority, that was never going to happen, and it will put the Queen in an impossible position constitutionally. So I think we can rule out a general election now that Boris Johnson has stepped down. We're looking now at months of selection of a new party leader, and then the firing gun will be fired to start the election campaign with a general election in about 2 years from now.
All right.
Do you think the Conservative Party is mortally wounded at this point? Do you feel that come the next election that Labour will clinch it, or perhaps even the Lib Dems?
Well, the Daily Telegraph described Boris Johnson as mortally wounded this morning, but the party, that's a big question. Certainly the Conservatives have a lot of support still in the country. Boris Johnson claims that he had 14 million votes at the last election, and those people haven't gone away. Who knows, with a new party leader in place, then the Conservatives' fortunes will increase. Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, of course thinks that he can win an election, but he's got difficulties of his own at the moment. He is waiting for a decision by Durham Police as to whether he's going to be fined for his so-called Beergate a month or so ago, and whether he's going to be fined for appears to be drinking beer with associates when the rest of the country was locked down. So Keir Starmer's position is not secure at all, and we'll have to see how that works out in the coming days and weeks. Can the Labour Party win? Hard to say at this point. We're just too far out from a general election, I think.
She did say that he would step down, Keir Starmer, if he's fined. Well, thank you so much for that update, Mr. Cookson.